Dr. Maya Patel cursed under her breath as the exoplanet's unpredictable atmosphere triggered another storm warning on her tablet. She'd have to cut her field research short again. After 3 years on Proxima Centauri b, she'd hoped the weather prediction algorithms would improve, but the planet seemed determined to keep its secrets. Dr. Patel, you should return to base immediately, Commander Ortiz's voice crackled over her comm unit. We're tracking an unidentified object entering the atmosphere near your position. Maya glanced at the ruby-red sky. Meteorite? Negative. Trajectory suggests controlled descent, though erratic. Could be a probe or a ship? Maya's heart rate quickened. In 15 years of interstellar exploration, humanity had found microbes, plant-like organisms, even primitive aquatic creatures, but never an advanced civilization. Return to base, Doctor. That's an order. Maya hesitated, watching a streak of light cut through the crimson clouds. It wasn't heading toward the base, it was coming down just beyond the ridge where she'd been collecting samples. Dr. Patel? Acknowledge. She made her decision. Signals breaking up, Commander. I'll head back now. She muted the comm and turned toward the ridge. The ground trembled as she crested the hill. Below, nestled in a smoking impact crater, lay a vessel unlike any human craft she'd seen. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent material that seemed to absorb and reflect the planet's ruddy light. Maya approached cautiously, scanner in one hand, plasma cutter in the other. A section of the hull had ruptured, revealing a dark interior. She activated her helmet lights and peered inside. Movement. Then a sound, a melodic hum that made the hairs on her arms stand up. Hello? She called, immediately feeling foolish. Whatever was inside wouldn't understand English. A figure emerged from the shadows, and Maya stumbled backward. It was humanoid but taller and more slender than any human. Most striking was its skin, a translucent, crystalline surface that caught her helmet's light and fractured it into countless rainbow patterns. The being raised what appeared to be hands in a universal gesture of peace. Its face was alien yet expressive, with large, multifaceted eyes that reflected Maya's own startled expression. No harm, it said in halting, accented English that sounded as though it had been learned from intercepted transmissions. Refugee. Seeking asylum. Maya's scientific mind reeled. You speak our language? Learn from signals. Long time listening. The being's skin pulsed with soft blue light. Name. Kiran. I'm Maya. She holstered her tools and extended a hand, then hesitated, unsure if the gesture would be understood or welcome. Kiran slowly reached out. When their fingertips touched, Maya felt a gentle vibration, and Kiran's skin illuminated with patterns that flowed like water. Beautiful, she whispered. Connection, Kiran replied. My people, speak with light also. A harsh voice cut through her comm, Dr. Patel, satellite shows you're not moving toward base. What's your status? Maya made another decision that would change her life forever. She muted her comm again and addressed the alien. You're injured. She pointed to a fluid leaking from Kiran's side. Hunters follow. My world, war. I oppose. They call, traitor. Maya understood immediately. Political refugee. She glanced back toward the base, knowing protocol demanded she report this encounter immediately. First contact procedures were explicit, no unauthorized interaction, immediate quarantine, and military oversight. But something in Kiran's multifaceted eyes spoke of intelligence, of consciousness, of fear. Come with me, she said, making a choice that would alter the course of 2 worlds. I know somewhere safe. Kiran's skin pulsed with amber light. Trust? Maya nodded. Trust. The abandoned research module sat half buried in the red soil, forgotten after budget cuts 3 years ago. Maya punched in her override code, technically unauthorized, but she'd maintained the place as a private retreat. The airlock hissed open. Inside, she whispered to Kieran, who stooped to clear the human-sized doorway. "It's not connected to the main systems. We'll be safe here." Once inside, Maya sealed the door and activated the backup power. Soft blue emergency lights illuminated the cluttered space: a cot, scientific equipment, some personal items she'd stashed away from the cramped main quarters. Kieran's crystalline skin reflected the blue light, creating a constellation of patterns across the walls. He swayed slightly, and Maya noticed the silvery fluid from his wound had spread. "You need medical attention." She guided him to sit on her cot. "I'm a xenobiologist, but I've never treated, well, someone like you." "Body will heal," Kieran said, his voice stronger now that they were alone. "Need rest. Safety." Maya opened her field kit and ran her scanner over his translucent form. The readings were unlike anything she'd seen, a silicon-based biology with crystalline cell structures that seemed to both conduct and emit energy. "Your wound is leaking what appears to be a bioelectric fluid," she observed. "I think it's your equivalent of blood." Kieran nodded. "Life energy. Will replenish, with time." She found a clean cloth and gently pressed it against his side. His skin felt smooth and warm beneath her fingers, with a subtle vibration like a musical instrument might produce. At her touch, ripples of golden light spread from the point of contact. "Did I hurt you?" Maya pulled back. "No." Kieran's multifaceted eyes fixed on hers. "Light is response. Pleasant. Contact between beings, rare for my kind." "You communicate through light patterns?" "Yes. Words, imprecise. Light shows truth. Cannot hide feelings in light." Maya found herself fascinated. "So I'm seeing your emotions right now?" "Seeing my gratitude. My relief." His skin pulsed with a deeper blue. "Also, pain. Fear." Over the next days, Maya split her time between her regular duties and secret visits to Kieran. She brought food, discovering he could process some human nutrients, and medical supplies. Most importantly, she brought language files, teaching him proper English during their hours together. "Your speech patterns are improving remarkably fast," she noted on the 5th day, as they sat cross-legged on the floor, sharing a meal of synthesized protein cubes. "My species, we have neural pathways specialized for communication," Kieran explained, his English now flowing more naturally though still with a melodic accent. "We learn quickly to survive. Many languages among the stars. Are there many species out there? Other civilizations?" Kieran's skin dimmed slightly. "Many. Not all kind. My world caught between empires. My people, pacifists. We refuse to build weapons, to fight in wars not ours. This makes us expendable." Maya's tablet chimed. Dr. Alexei Petrov was calling, the 3rd time today. She silenced it. "Your colleague is persistent," Kieran observed. "He's suspicious. I've been avoiding the lab, making excuses." She sighed. "Alexei's brilliant but ruthless. He'd turn you over to Central Command in a heartbeat." An alarm blared from her tablet. Motion sensors. Someone was approaching the module. "Hide," she hissed, pointing to a storage closet. As Kieran folded his tall frame into the small space, Maya squeezed in beside him and pulled the door shut. In the darkness, Kieran's skin began to glow with soft, pulsing patterns. The gentle light illuminated their faces, inches apart in the cramped space. "They mustn't see your light," Maya whispered, desperately looking for something to cover him. "I can control, when necessary." His light dimmed but didn't completely fade. "But near you, difficult." body responds to proximity. Maya suddenly understood what he was saying. Her heart raced as she realized the pulsing patterns were a response to her, to their closeness. Outside, footsteps circled the module. The door rattled as someone tested it. In the darkness, Maya found Kieran's hand. Their fingers intertwined, human and alien, and a wave of warmth spread up her arm. His skin began to glow in mesmerizing patterns, brighter now despite his efforts to control it. Maya. He whispered, his voice a soft melody. She pressed closer, guided by the soft light of his skin, until their foreheads touched. The sensation was electric, a tingling current passing between them. Kieran's light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "What is this?" she whispered. "Connection," he replied. "Deeper than words." The footsteps outside receded. They were safe, but neither moved to leave their hidden sanctuary. In the soft glow of Kieran's light, something fragile and new was forming, a bridge between two worlds, as dangerous as it was beautiful. 2 weeks after Kieran's arrival, Maya's double life had become a delicate balancing act. By day, she analyzed soil samples and attended staff meetings at the base. By night, she slipped away to the abandoned module where Kieran waited, his skin brightening at her approach. Tonight, she brought him a gift, a data crystal containing information about Earth. "Your world is beautiful," Kieran said, his long fingers tracing images of oceans and forests. "So much water. So much life." "I'd love to see your world someday," Maya replied. Kieran's skin darkened to a deep indigo. "It was beautiful once. Before the mining. Before the war." He taught her about his homeworld, a crystalline planet orbiting a binary star system, where his people had evolved to harness light as both energy and communication. "We live in harmony with our world," he explained. "Until others came. They wanted our crystals for weapons. When we refused to help, they took by force." As he spoke, his skin projected intricate patterns that conveyed more than words, the beauty of his world, the horror of its destruction. Maya found herself reaching out to touch the images, her fingers gently brushing his translucent skin. At her touch, Kieran trembled. The light patterns shifted to a warm, pulsing gold. "I'm sorry," she said, pulling back. "Did I overstep?" "No." His multifaceted eyes seemed to look into her rather than at her. "Among my people, to share light is intimate. To touch while sharing is." He struggled for the word. "Reserved for those who are bonded." "Oh." Maya felt her cheeks flush. "Like lovers?" "Yes." The word was barely audible. "But I find human touch fascinating. Different. Your warmth contains no light, yet I can feel it radiating." The air between them seemed charged with electricity. Maya was acutely aware of how close they sat, of the gentle hum emanating from Kieran's form. "Your wound has healed well," she said, changing the subject. She reached for her scanner, running it over his side where the injury had been. "The cellular regeneration rate is remarkable." As she leaned closer, Kieran's scent enveloped her, like ozone after lightning, fresh and electric. His skin pulsed faster, the patterns becoming more complex, flowing like liquid light. "Maya," he whispered, her name transformed into music in his melodic voice. "What is happening between us? It is unprecedented. My people do not bond with other species." "Neither do mine," she replied softly. "At least, not that we know of." His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. This time, the sensation was even stronger, a current of energy flowing between them, making her skin tingle and her heart race. "I've studied your biology," she said, her scientific mind still trying to make sense of their connection. "Your crystalline structure conducts energy. When we touch, there must be some kind of resonance." Kieran's laugh was like wind chimes. "You humans. Always needing explanations." His free hand lifted to her face, hovering just above her cheek as if asking permission. Sometimes connection simply is. She leaned into his touch. The contact sent waves of warmth through her body. His skin illuminated with dazzling patterns, colors she couldn't name pulsing in harmony with her heartbeat. "I can feel your pulse," he whispered. "It sings to me." Maya moved closer, guided by instinct rather than thought. Their foreheads touched, then their lips, an alien kiss, strange yet familiar. His mouth was warm, vibrating with the same subtle energy that coursed through his entire being. As they kissed, Kieran's light suffused the room, painting the walls with swirling galaxies of color. Maya felt as though she were floating among stars. His hands moved to her waist, lifting her effortlessly onto his lap, their bodies pressed together. "I've never..." he began. "Neither have I," she answered. "Not like this." They explored each other with tender curiosity, her fingers tracing the facets of his crystalline form, his hands discovering the unfamiliar curves of her body. Where they touched, his skin glowed brighter, responding to her in ways that transcended words. Maya slipped her shirt over her head, wanting to feel more of that radiant energy against her skin. Kieran's eyes widened, his light pulsing with a new intensity. "You are beautiful," he whispered, his fingers hesitantly tracing the outline of her breasts, leaving trails of tingling warmth. They moved together slowly, discovering how their different biologies could complement each other. His touch sent currents of pleasure through her nervous system, while her warmth caused his light to pulse and swirl in patterns of escalating complexity. Their joining was like nothing Maya could have imagined, a harmonic convergence of energy and matter, light and heat. As their bodies found their rhythm, Kieran's glow enveloped them both, and for a moment, Maya could see as he did, not just with her eyes but with her entire being, perceiving the flowing patterns of life energy between them. At the height of their passion, Kieran's light flared with blinding intensity, his crystalline body resonating with a frequency that made every cell in Maya's body sing in response. Her release came moments later, waves of pleasure crashing through her as their energies pulsed in perfect synchrony. Afterward, they lay intertwined on her narrow cot, his skin still glowing softly, illuminating the contours of her body pressed against his. That was. Maya searched for words. Beyond language, Kieran finished, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare back. "In my culture, we have a term for this, resonance bonding. It happens rarely, even among our own kind. Between different species. I thought it impossible." A sharp beep from Maya's tablet shattered their peace. She reached for it, reading the message with growing alarm. "Commander Ortiz has called an emergency meeting. Central Command has detected your ship's energy signature. They're sending a security team to investigate." She looked at him, fear replacing the afterglow of their intimacy. "They'll be here in 2 days." The security team arrived with the dawn, 6 black shuttles descending from orbit, kicking up clouds of red dust as they landed. Maya watched from the laboratory window, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Quite the response for a derelict ship," Dr. Alexei Petrov said, suddenly beside her. His cold eyes studied her face. Almost as if they expect to find something more than debris. Maya kept her expression neutral. "Central Command is always paranoid." "Indeed." Alexei's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Paranoia can be useful, though. It makes one observant." That evening, Maya slipped away from the base earlier than usual, alarm growing with each passing minute. The security team had spent the day setting up a perimeter around Kieran's crashed ship. Soon they would expand their search. When she reached the abandoned module, Kieran was waiting, his skin dimmed to near invisibility. "We need to move you," she said without preamble. "It's only a matter of time before they search this sector." As they gathered the few supplies she'd brought him over the weeks, Alexei's voice came from the doorway. "I thought I might find you here, Dr. Patel." Maya whirled around. Behind her, Kieran's skin flared with defensive light before dimming again. Fascinating, Alexei said, stepping inside and sealing the door behind him. A photosensitive silicon-based life form. Crystalline biology. His pale eyes gleamed with scientific hunger. Do you know what Central Command would give for such a specimen? He's not a specimen. Maya moved to stand between them. He's a refugee. A refugee. Alexei's laugh was brittle. Or an advanced scout. Or biological warfare. The first alien contact in human history, and you decided to hide it in an abandoned storage shed and, his eyes flicked to the rumpled cot, what? Study it intimately? Maya felt sick. How long have you known? I've been tracking your movements for days. Your little field trips. Your declining productivity. The energy spikes in this supposedly abandoned module. He pulled out a communication device. Commander Ortiz will be fascinated by my discovery. Please, Maya stepped toward him. He's peaceful. His people are pacifists. If you turn him in, they'll dissect him. That's not my concern. Alexei raised the communicator to his lips. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Kieran lunged forward with unexpected speed. Alexei, startled, drew a weapon from his belt. The flash of the energy pistol illuminated the small space. Maya threw herself between them. White-hot pain seared through her shoulder. She fell, vaguely aware of Kieran's anguished cry, of his arms catching her. Through blurred vision, she saw his skin blazing with furious light, patterns she'd never seen before, jagged and sharp. Maya. His voice seemed to come from far away. She tried to speak, to tell him to run, but darkness was closing in around her. The last thing she saw was Kieran's crystalline hand pressed against Alexei's forehead, light pulsing between them, and Alexei's eyes rolling back as he collapsed. Maya awoke to the gentle swaying motion of being carried. Her shoulder throbbed with dull pain. Through half-lidded eyes, she saw an alien sky full of unfamiliar stars. Kieran's arms cradled her against his chest as he moved swiftly through the darkness. Where? She managed. The wilderness, he whispered. Beyond their sensors. Alexei? Alive. Unconscious. I shared painful memories. His mind could not withstand them. Dawn found them deep in the alien forest that covered the planet's southern continent. Massive fern-like plants towered overhead, their broad leaves filtering the red sunlight. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the trunks, casting an eerie blue glow. Kieran gently set Maya down beneath the shelter of a massive root system. Her wound had been bandaged with strips torn from her uniform. How bad? She asked, wincing as she tried to sit up. The energy weapon cauterized the wound. No major vessels damaged. His long fingers gently adjusted the makeshift bandage. You protected me. You'd have done the same. His skin pulsed with soft amber light. My people, we are not warriors. But for you. The patterns shifted to a deep, resolute crimson. For you, I would fight galaxies. They remained hidden in the forest for days, moving only at night. Kieran proved surprisingly adept at survival. He could sense water sources beneath the ground and identify which indigenous plants were safe for Maya to eat. His crystalline body drew energy directly from sunlight, requiring no food. On the fourth night, as they huddled in the hollow of a massive tree, rain hammered down around them. Maya's shoulder had begun to heal, but fever had set in, making her shiver despite the planet's tropical heat. I need to get you medicine, Kieran said, his skin pulsing with worry. Too dangerous. Maya drew the thermal blanket tighter around herself. The security teams will be everywhere by now. You risked everything for me. His fingers traced her cheek, leaving trails of comforting warmth. I cannot let you suffer. In her fevered state, Maya thought he had never looked more beautiful, his crystalline form glowing softly in the darkness, patterns of concern and love flowing across his skin. She reached up to touch his face. "I never realized," she whispered, "how lonely I was until I found you." His light dimmed to a soft, intimate blue. "Among the stars, across countless worlds, I never imagined finding someone who could see my light, who could feel it." His voice became music, a soft melody that seemed to resonate with the rain drumming around them. "My people have an expression, starfall, when two souls collide across impossible distances." That night, despite her fever, they made love with desperate tenderness. Kieran's touch was gentler than before, mindful of her injury, but no less intense. His light enveloped her, soothing her pain, burning away her fever with healing warmth. As their bodies joined, Maya felt as though she could see through his eyes, the universe not as discrete objects but as patterns of energy and light, all connected, all resonating together. In the aftermath, as they lay intertwined, Maya drifting in and out of consciousness, Kieran sang to her in his native language, sounds that reminded her of crystal bells and distant stars. "If we survive this," she murmured, "I want to learn your language. I want to understand your world." "If we survive this," he replied, his fingers tracing patterns of light across her skin, "I will teach you to speak with light itself." The next morning, Maya's fever had broken. Whether from Kieran's alien biology or simply her own resilience, she felt stronger. Strong enough to make a difficult decision. "We can't keep running," she said as they shared a breakfast of native fruit. "This planet is too small, and Central Command is too thorough. They'll find us eventually. What do you suggest? We need allies." Not everyone at the base shares Alexei's views or Central Command's paranoia. She looked at him, determination replacing fear. "I have friends who might help us, Dr. James Rivera and Dr. Neela Singh. They believe in communication over confrontation. You would risk contacting them? It's our only chance. Not just for survival, but for understanding." She took his hand, watching the now familiar patterns of light pulse in response to her touch. "What we have, Kieran, it could change everything. It could show both our species that we don't have to fear each other." As the red sun climbed higher, they formulated their plan. Maya would use Kieran's knowledge of the planet's magnetic fields to send a targeted communication burst to James and Neela. If her friends responded, and if they weren't already imprisoned for their association with her, they might have a chance at something more than mere survival. "And if they betray us?" Kieran asked, his skin dimming with concern. Maya looked out at the alien forest, then back at Kieran's luminous face. "Then at least we'll face it together." The message was simple: coordinates, a time, and a single word: starfall. If James and Neela understood, if they were still free, if they were willing to risk everything for a friend, they would come. As dusk fell over the meeting point, a cliff overlooking a valley of bioluminescent plants, Maya felt sick with fear and hope. Kieran stood beside her, his skin dimmed to near invisibility, ready to flee at the first sign of danger. "Someone's coming," he whispered, his crystalline senses detecting movement before Maya could hear anything. A moment later, the soft crunch of footsteps reached her ears. Not the heavy tread of security forces, but the careful steps of people trying to move quietly. Maya squeezed Kieran's hand, then stepped into the clearing. "Maya?" Neela's voice came before her form emerged from the shadows. The Indian astrophysicist's eyes widened at the sight of her friend's ragged appearance. James appeared a moment later, his dark face tense with concern. "Thank God you're alive. The whole base is looking for you. They're saying you aided an alien infiltrator, that you attacked Alexei." "None of that is true," Maya said, then hesitated. "Well, the alien part is. But he's not an infiltrator." She turned toward the shadows. "Kieran, it's safe." When Kieran stepped into the clearing, his skin illuminating with cautious patterns of blue and gold. Both scientists gasped. Neela's hand flew to her mouth, while James took an involuntary step backward. "My God," Neela whispered. "Crystalline silicon-based life. The theories were right." "He's a refugee," Maya explained quickly. "His people are peaceful. They're being exploited for their world's resources, forced into a war they want no part of." As Maya recounted their story, editing out the intimate details of their relationship, she watched her colleagues' expressions shift from shock to wonder to sympathy. When she finished, there was a long silence. "You realize what you're asking," James finally said. "If we help you, we become fugitives too." "I know. But if we turn him over to Central Command, they'll treat him like a lab specimen at best, a threat at worst. This is first contact, James. Real first contact. And how we handle it will define humanity's place among the stars." Neela approached Kieran slowly, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial fear. "May I?" she asked, hand extended. Kieran looked to Maya, who nodded. When Neela's fingers touched his crystalline skin, his light patterns shifted to a gentle welcoming blue. "Remarkable," Neela breathed. "The patterns, they respond to touch, to emotion?" "It's how his people communicate," Maya explained. "More honest than words." James joined them, his initial hesitation giving way to the same scientific wonder that had first drawn Maya to Kieran. "We've speculated about silicon-based life for centuries, but the reality is more beautiful than theory," Maya finished. By dawn, a plan had taken shape. James and Neela couldn't smuggle Kieran off-planet, the security was too tight, the risk too great. But they could help change the narrative. "We need evidence," James explained. "Data about Kieran's biology, his culture, recordings of his language. Proof that he's not a threat. And testimonials," Neela added. "From respected scientists. Us. We present this not as an infiltration but as an opportunity, peaceful contact with an advanced civilization." Over the next week, hidden in a cave system beyond the base's sensor range, they built their case. Kieran submitted patiently to scans and samples, answering endless questions about his people, their technology, their social structures. Maya translated when his English failed him, their connection now so deep she could sometimes understand the meaning in his light patterns without words. At night, when James and Neela returned to the base to avoid suspicion, Maya and Kieran had the cave to themselves. Their lovemaking had taken on a new dimension, not just passion but celebration, reverence for what they had found across the gulf of stars. "If this fails," Kieran whispered one night, his skin illuminating her naked body with patterns of deepest love, "I want you to know that finding you was worth every hardship." "It won't fail," Maya replied, tracing the facets of his crystalline face. "What we have is too important. It's proof that connection transcends difference, that understanding is possible across any divide." On the day of reckoning, Maya and Kieran waited in the cave while James and Neela presented their findings to Commander Ortiz and the visiting admiral from Central Command. Hours passed in tense silence. When the communication device finally chimed, Maya's hands trembled as she answered it. "They want to meet him," Neela's voice came through, tight with controlled excitement. "Not as a prisoner, but as a diplomatic representative. The Admiral believes your data. He sees the potential for an alliance with Kieran's people against their oppressors." 6 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching stars streak by. Kieran stood beside her, his crystalline form reflecting the cosmic light, no longer dimmed or hiding. Their journey had just begun. They were bound for Earth, where Kieran would be the first official representative of his people to humanity. The diplomatic papers recognized him not just as an ambassador but as the co-founder, along with Dr. Maya Patel, of the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Initiative. What the papers didn't mention What existed beyond official recognition but was accepted with a nod and a smile by those who knew them, was that they were also the first cross-species union in human history. A living bridge between worlds. Are you nervous? Maya asked, feeling the subtle vibration in his hand that betrayed his anxiety. My people have a saying, Kiran replied, his skin illuminating with patterns of courage and hope. The light finds its path through even the darkest void. Maya smiled, understanding the meaning behind both his words and his light. On Earth, we say, love knows no boundaries. Kiran's free hand lifted to touch her face, sending familiar warmth through her body. His skin brightened with the special pattern reserved only for her, a swirling galaxy of blues and golds that spoke of devotion beyond language. Both true, he said softly. Both true. As their ship continued its journey toward Earth, they stood silhouetted against the stars, two beings from different worlds whose connection had opened a door between civilizations. Their personal starfall had become something greater, a beacon guiding two species toward a shared future among the stars.